Hello, everybody. Welcome to our latest e-commerce explored webinar. It's very cool to have you tuning in and joining us for this massive topic. Actually, we're just discussing this with the panelists backstage, and we could go anywhere with this one. We're going to be talking about AI and automation, how it relates to peak, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about how it relates longer term as well. But there is just so many places we could go with that. This is the third of our set of 3 kind of peak preparation webinars. The other 2 are either available on the website where you are right now, or I know at least one of them is already on YouTube, and I think the second one goes live on YouTube next week. So we'll be emailing you all about that. But it's kind of cool to be wrapping up our peak prep at the beginning of October, because it gives all of you plenty of time to get yourself ready, in order, getting all those good things together so as you can use this to make a difference to your performance this year. Our topic really today is about how to do more with less. So AI comes into it, automation comes into it, sensible decisions amongst your team may come into it. So we're going to be looking at the tried and can we say tried and tested about AI yet? We possibly can. But we're going to be looking at the ways that are already delivering for other brands and the practical solutions of AI, rather than the theoretical or those ideas that it's very easy to come across. We have loads that we can talk about in this one. So before we get into our panelists, we get into the discussion, I'm going to try and get through the housekeeping stuff super fast. Regular attendees of these will know this already, but bear with me. We would love to answer your questions. We are doing this live, very live. So please add any questions you've got for me and the panelists into the Q&A box that's on the right-hand side of your screen. If we could give that a test, if at least one of you out there watching could put in there where you're tuning in from, where in the world you are right now, that would make me slightly more relaxed and very happy to know that it's all working. So please do get that adding in. But the thing I would say about the questions is, and panelists, you're welcome to join in with this as well. Edward Scott Finnegan is here again. I met Edward in person last week. Yeah, he's very tall. Uh, that's comments for the regular audience members. Great to have you here, Edward. Thank you for joining us again. So the thing I always say about the questions in these panels is, ask your question early. If you're sitting there thinking, oh, I've got a vague idea of something I might ask, but I don't know if I should ask it early, because inevitably you all start asking your questions with about 20 minutes to go, at which point I don't have time to get them all answered by the panel. So get your questions in early, everybody, please, whether they're about AI, automation, how to improve profitability this peak. We will take them all. Who's going to be answering these questions? That's the next big question for you, isn't it? So who have we got on our panel today? We've got 3 brilliant e-commerce sources of knowledge, I think I should describe them as today. We've got Yaël from Doofinder, super clever lady who knows so much about how you can optimize performance on your website. So really looking forward to having her opinions. We've got Judith, who is a strategic marketing leader, often working on the SaaS side of things, but with plenty of brand experience as well. And I know she's been pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI in her recent position with Shopify. And we've got Janis Thomas on the brand side of things. We've got all bases covered today. And Janis is an e-commerce and subscriptions specialist, especially in the beauty sector. So crazy wide knowledge from our panelists today. This may be one where it's one question per panelist. We shall see what you guys want to know about, but really, really great to have them all here. And huge thanks as well to Doofinder for being our sponsors for this webinar. Right, you can find out more about our sponsors and about our panelists somewhere on the page where you're all watching. But I think 4 minutes of solo Chloe is more than enough. So let's bring up our panelists and get them to do much better intros of them than I just managed. Hello, everybody. Right, let's start with Yaël, and then we'll go on around the page or around the screen. So Yaël, please let us know a bit more about you, a bit more about Doofinder, and you can even stray into the world of AI and automation if you want.
Great, thank you, Chloe. So I'm Yaël, and I'm a content marketer at Doofinder. So Doofinder is a search and discovery software solution, and we best compare it to a virtual shopping assistant, which helps customers not only find exactly the products they're looking for, but also products that they didn't know they needed. We do this through a lot of different AI-powered tools. So, for example, we have our search that understands search intent. So it really understands what a shopper is typing in, even if there's spelling errors. So a shopper never walks away empty-handed from your store. We also have our AI-powered recommendation system that analyzes user behavior. So shoppers are presented not with random products, but with products that really fit how they have been behaving on your website. We have different tools that are analytic tools that will inform you. Also use AI to inform you on how users are searching your website. So all these tools together, they basically not only cause higher conversion, but they also improve the user experience. So there's a lot of AI involved there, as you said, Chloe. And that's a summary of what we're doing.
Very cool. See, everyone, I said we had great AI knowledge and automation knowledge here. Get your questions in. Janis, please introduce yourself to the audience.
So I have been doing marketing certainly for more decades than I care to remember, and e-commerce for a really long time too. I've had a really wide-ranging career. I've worked everywhere from Birchbox, the original subscription box, through to the Times Literary Supplement, the most highbrow literary publication in the world. I've done everything from build one of the first streaming platforms in the UK, even before Netflix was doing streaming, through to organising Hugh Hefner's 80th birthday party.
The mind boggles. Should we just divert and talk about Hugh Hefner's 80th birthday party? Guessing there wasn't much AI involved in that one, Janis. No, didn't think so. Um, so, Judith, can you top that? Please tell us a bit about yourself.
I don't think I can top Hugh Hefner's 80th birthday party. But yes, I've also worked in the e-commerce space for over 15 years, I think it is now. It started in the Netherlands, more on the agency side, so spinning up web shops for other brands and full service managing them. So I've seen the back end of a lot of e-commerce shops, various different types of products. But here in the UK, I've mainly worked on the SaaS side. As you'd mentioned earlier, I've worked with BigCommerce, with Shopline and Shopify recently. And that's really to bring their brands to market more than anything. And on the side of that, I do some voluntary work with Enterprise Nations Help to Grow program, where I help small businesses grow, and a lot of that is in the e-commerce space. A lot of that is small D2C brands, and that's really exciting because I get to see how you need to do things when you don't have much money.
Yes, which is the big challenge at the moment, I think, for everybody, the whole do more with less angle. So regular viewers of our webinars will know I like to start not entirely with questions, but with slides that pose opinions or complete their sentences. And because usually I put a where I'm seeing brands, blah, 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 insert title of webinar here. Usually I do this one like several slides in to get us started. But this time, because we are on a topic which is so huge, I wanted to kick us off with this straight away. Liz, one of you was making some noises there that we were hearing coming through. It sounded like things being rearranged on a desk. So no blank stares all round. We'll ignore that. I'll turn my podcast brain off and we'll focus on webinar brain. So we're going to start off to find out the opinions of our panelists on where it is that brands are getting the best wins from AI at the moment, because this, I think, is just such a big topic to help us cut into what's going to be really, really valuable for you all from this session. So completing this sentence, where I'm seeing brands make the biggest AI implementation wins is, who fancies coming in on this one first? Oh, I'm going to pick on one of you then. Judith, you made the mistake of smiling, so I'm coming to you first. Where are you seeing brands make those AI implementation wins at the moment?
I think the biggest wins are being made around content, and really that's a bit of a no-brainer, I imagine. And I sort of don't really want to focus on that side because I think it's where a lot of people are already experimenting with chat and with Canva and some of the native tools. I think where some of the biggest AI implementation wins are happening that really can have a profound effect on your success is a little bit further down the line. So around the customer service automation, for instance. I think that's probably one of the bigger pain points that still remains, dealing with how customers come in with refund requests, lost parcels, or even when they're browsing on the site and they've got questions. This is an area I think that still can be improved tremendously, and is a lot overlooked because we spend a lot of time on the sort of like pre-purchase phase rather than the post purchase phase. So yeah, that's one that I wanted to highlight, and I think there are tons of really fantastic tools out there that can help with it, from very easy to implement solutions. Some of the platforms have got fantastic AI solutions embedded and help with various different things. Like it could either be a chat like a chat button on the site that will help you through a process of purchasing or a customer query. But it can go as deep as, collecting all your inbound queries in one space, one dashboard, whether it's emails or whether it's chat or whether it's text messages, so that you've got one space that you can manage it all. And then, of course, the whole sort of automated reply. So we're quite used to now, I think, having automated replies through FAQs that are quite standard. What you're starting to see now is that you can layer AI over that, and you can actually have a conversation rather than sometimes it's frustrating. You answer a question like it hasn't quite yet. That's just a standard pull out of my FAQs, and I really have a slightly different question to that. And I think that's really an area to that's worth sort of like diving into deeper to help with your processes.
Loving the
Could I add to
two-part
that?
nature of your. I'll come to you in a second, Yael, because you are obviously the person to come to us that one. But what I love about your answer there, Judith, is the two layers of it, and I think it's so true. It's like we've heard so much noise about, oh, we're creating graphics, we're creating copy, we're creating product copy, we're automating the Amazon listings, and all this bit about kind of content generation. But actually, I think if we look back in 5-10 years time, the biggest wins are going to be where we're automating the systems and the more kind of ones and zeros data, where it's not qualitative, it's quantitative. Where is my order? It's here, it's there. Can you show me pink dresses? Here are the pink dresses, and that kind of stuff. So Yael, obviously we have to come to you next after that. So where are you seeing brands make the biggest AI implementation wins? Is it similar to what Judith's suggesting?
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting point that Judith suggested, because when I'm speaking about AI in terms of e-commerce, a lot of people indeed immediately think about content and also what it will mean for graphic design, the visuals. But I see that there's a lot of tools that don't immediately come to mind. What I find very interesting, what you also mentioned, was what AI can mean for customer service. I see in the industry right now, we just have a product in beta, which is an AI assistant that helps customers compare products, that helps customers answer queries, and it's all in the same system. Whereas some companies now have like a separate chatbot. I see that we're moving to a more inclusive, coherent space where everything is solved in the same product. I also wanted to mention that I think AI can make a when it comes to search. For example, a lot of I used to work at an e-commerce before, and I spent my days typing in a lot of different tags, a lot of different synonyms for the same product, and this could take a lot of time. But now using AI, for example, we have an AI synonym product that recognizes synonyms for the same tag. So you don't have to type all of these things in manually anymore, which saves hours of work. So I think that's also a huge thing to keep in mind when it comes to AI implementation wins.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Like, I think one of the reasons why these better implementations than creating copy, creating graphics is taking a while to filter through is because you've got to have the data in place and accessible to make it possible for the AI to be able to access it, for it to be able to run. And
Yes.
I suspect, yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're going to move to more things happening in the one tool, because the
Yes.
power is in the database. And if you
Yeah.
fix the database in that one place, then you don't need 20 million tools trying to access that data. You can just get all your widgets, if that makes
Exactly.
sense, flying out from
Exactly.
that core data
Yeah,
set.
and what a database looks like will change too, because, for example, we're moving to AI visual tagging where you just upload an image of your product, and from that image, the AI can already extract what the product is, what the color is, what the materials are, etc. So the data that needs to be uploaded will also change.
Well, then from a user perspective, whether the user's using the search or talking to a chatbot on the site, they're using the same synonyms. So why would you duplicate that work by having to train two systems in the same way on the
Yes.
synonyms rather than
Yeah.
having it all in the same place? It's a different way of thinking about how
Yeah.
we manage our tools. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. And then the other thing which I thought was interesting about what you're saying there, yeah, was how the there's the bot on the outside for the customer, but there's also bots working on the inside, making the team's life easier too.
Yes.
And that's one, like, I've been pretty confident all along that the big ones and zeros data play, as we've just been talking about, is going to outstrip the benefit of copy and graphics. But I'm as yet uncertain as to whether the biggest AI impacts from a profitability standpoint for e-commerce businesses are going to be the AI that helps you behind the scenes, that strips the tags out of the images, that auto does
Yeah.
your synonyms, or whether it's going to be the AI on the front end that's doing, saving your customer service team from having to reply to everyone everywhere is my parcel thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a really interesting one, because having been at e-commerce expo, lots of businesses are working on it. Both most of the
Yeah.
software companies are working on it on both sides.
Yeah. Definitely. For us, the same. We have different tools that work on different sides of the e-commerce experience, indeed. And
Yeah.
wins can be made on both. Huge wins can be made on both sides. So it's indeed very interesting to see where we're moving towards.
So Janis, let me get the question back up, because we're having big long conversations on this one. I should remind you what the question is before I make you answer it. Um, where are you seeing brands make the biggest AI implementation wins? Is it what we've been talking about, or is it something completely different?
Yeah, I think I just want to expand on the content piece a little bit, because I think, yes, there are lots of things around process, around resizing and changing the color and kind of all of those things that kind of it takes, kind of retouching, takes the admin out of that, and the things that were previously time consuming. But I think where it's really interesting is what it's evolving, and B, what it's freeing up time for, which is to realize things that you previously only dreamed of. That, for example, that you can take a flat product image and turn it into a lifestyle shot, that previously that would have been like, oh, I don't have time to shoot it or get the props in, or kind of do all of those things. Whereas actually you can do it. You can turn a series of flat images into a video. You can get, text to voice. There are so many different tools that are really about inspiring the creativity. And I think particularly both kind of anecdotally in terms of what I've seen and some of the data I've seen, that particularly with Meta, that we've gone from kind of the half a dozen creatives to hundreds of creatives, and really where a lot of brands are seeing incremental revenue is shifting that to almost one-to-one creative personalization, and that's where that is heading. And that requires an awful lot of creativity and not just reversioning, essentially.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? That kind of like that now the sky's the limit on what we could do with the creative, but we've got to put the inputs into it right. Otherwise, we get bad creative, which when you're handing that creative over to Meta, over to Google, you can end up with really you can end up training the algorithm to go in completely the wrong direction because you're accidentally feeding it with a load of imagery that if you'd spent the time on it, you would know doesn't actually resonate to your customer. So it's yes, we can do all of this, but should we do all of this? It's the same old kind of garbage in, garbage out, and in this case, strategy is the bit that might be missing. Um, that's your take on
Yeah.
creative. Is that where you're finding brands making the biggest AI improvements at the moment, Janice, or would there be another area?
I think that's where I'm personally seeing it. I think brands, there are so many things that you could be doing from a process point of view. It might be reporting, it might be, idea generation. And I think where, as you were saying, that kind of garbage in, garbage out, I think there's a huge process piece for brands around inputs, that everyone's got a brand bible that probably sits in a drawer somewhere and nobody looks at, and it's probably not fit for purpose. And actually, um you know what different teams, or even within the same organization, are doing is not aligned. So I think there's a big piece of work for brands who really want to scale with AI, that's actually bringing everyone together and being really specific about what their brand book is. In the age of AI, is an awful lot more detailed and specific, and you need that consistency across the teams. And I think that kind of siloed behavior is going organizations are going to start to come unraveled, that they really need to be bringing teams together to collaborate, to be consistent. Otherwise, it's all going to go horribly wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a sorry, Judith.
Sorry, I wanted to jump in that. I think that's such a great point to highlight, that we're in a phase at the moment which is actually encouraging a lot of organizations to get their house in order as well. How many organizations work on, we've got lots of people that are trained up and they're using bits of brand and they're using bits of copy and stuff like that. And because we're humans, we can play around with it and we can throw it back and forth. What AI is making us do is really think about, okay, what is the brand Bible that you have to upload? What are the FAQs? Like, what are the product descriptions? What are the, and that all has to be done very systematically and proper. And it's actually a really good thing. I've come across that in a number of cases, especially with smaller companies, that, there's bits and pieces all over the place, but nothing is kind of centralized. And having to go through and for instance, in Canva, you can upload your whole brand Bible. Like you can put everything in there so that it's constantly feeding off that information for any creative that you want to make. And that's such a fantastic exercise. And for companies that are starting up at the moment, doing it from scratch that way, brilliant. You're saving yourself so much time as you go down the line, that you've got a centralized, the PIM, the product information management systems that we've often talked about in the past, that were a really big thing, and now everything is kind of like integrated. I mean, this AI is in a way doing that, but across the whole organization.
Yeah, there's so many big topics I would love to dive into there, ladies, but we're going to see if the audience wants to know more about them. So if there's anything we've been talking about you want to know more about, put it in the comments, ask us questions. We've already got a biggie news question that's come in that we will get to later. But I want to take us on to the next point I wanted to make, which is kind of like the other side of what the aim of this webinar is, which is what can we do before peak? I think there's still time to improve systems meaningly ready for peak. It's only a month away now, but I reckon it's still because of the benefits you can get both in peak and beyond. I think it's still worth doing some changes, probably not all changes. Yael, can I come to you first on this one? Do you agree or disagree? Is there still time for system optimization, whatever you may interpret that to be, before peak?
Yeah, I definitely agree. What I find interesting about AI, which I didn't know before really diving as deep into it as I have in the last year, is that AI implementation doesn't mean you need to have a huge tech team on board on your company, and you need to spend hours on customization before it works. A lot of these content management systems, they have literal plug and play modules that you can implement, and they use AI and they can improve processes and systems in your company within minutes. So I'd say definitely important not not think that it's a huge tedious process. I'd also say on our side, for example, our tools, they fit with all of the big content management systems, and they can be implemented quickly. And there's room for customization if that's what the shop wants. But if you want to keep it simple, then that's also possible, and you can see quick wins immediately. So
Yeah, I think AI is pushing us more towards that area of everything happens in phases rather than
yeah,
once every 5 years we rebuild the tech stack and the website.
yeah,
It's like this. Going back to do this example of Canva earlier. If Canva gives you another bit that you can feed in for the brand guidelines, you're not going to ignore that till January.
yeah,
You're going to make that implementation now. If you're on a software package and they release a new widget of some description which is based on AI, which you've already integrated with that could improve things, then I think and you think that's going to help solve a problem you've got. I think you'd be crazy to do it. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm glad you're in my camp on this one.
Yeah, it's a shame that I see so many stores postpone things because they think it's gonna be a huge a project that they'd have to take up, but it's actually something that can be done super quickly in many cases. I
Yeah, I
agree.
think you always have to look at that kind of where are we now,
Yeah,
and we might not integrate everything. As per your example, we might just put the MVP live, the non-customized version, get it gathering data, get it improving things by 5% for
yeah,
the next 3 months, and then we've got data that we can
yeah.
optimize with and everything else. We're that much further forwards as well as having better results. Janis, agree or disagree? Are you in the lockdown now, make no tech amends for 3 months, or would you be actively improving your systems?
I think there are huge opportunities right now to, you know, you could be asking, is there anything else that we can do? What could go wrong with our strategy? How could these creatives be improved? You can ask all of these questions. And I think it's also much easier to be nimble and change your plans. Like you could be live in your Black Friday campaign and a competitor might do something that previously you might have been like, oh, well, we'll just have to do it differently next year. Now you can respond much more quickly. So, I think not just there's still time now, but I think there's even still time when things are live now.
So would you, if something came along the last week of November that looked worth testing, would you do it in Black Friday week, or would you leave it till December? I know,
I
really putting you on the spot here.
I think there's certainly, if you didn't feel that your performance is where you had hoped it had been, then you might say, actually, do you know what? I've been a little bit, like I know we're experimenting a little with our button, kind of how buttons look, and it's like, do you know what? If we think that we've made a mistake with those buttons, it will be much easier to change now than it would have been in previous years.
Thank you for rising to my bait on that one. Judith, agree, disagree? Would you agree with Yael and Janis that we should still be looking to improve our systems meaningfully for peak?
I actually sit on the side of caution. I do agree that there are opportunities that you can still take now. And definitely around things like creative and maybe even some of the back end stuff on your systems. It also depends a lot on the software or the tools. Are they easy to integrate? Like Yael was saying, if it is really easy to integrate and get up and running fairly quickly, you've still got time to test it. I'd be very nervous to start testing new tools coming right up to Black Friday, because a lot can go wrong. And when that stress hits and you're trying to deal with just that additional stress, you don't want to have the additional stress of, how does this tool work? Why isn't it doing what it's supposed to be doing? I think that's quite a dangerous area to be in. And again, it probably varies a lot in are you a merchant, a brand that you're a very small team, you don't have a lot of in-house tech experience potentially, or are you a larger company that has dedicated engineers sitting on the team? There's a difference there as well. We've done things in the past which are quite daring, but knowing that you have a team of people that are sitting there at the ready to pick up any bugs or fixes that need to happen immediately. So yeah, I think there's still time now. We're about 2 months away, I think just under 2 months away. But yeah, coming up to sort of like 3 to 4 weeks before Black Friday, I would be very cautious in launching new tools. But that's me.
I think we're in the it depends arena, aren't we? It depends on the product, it depends on the team, and it depends on current performance and what you're doing. But we are no longer in we lock down the tech stack for 4 months at the end of the year. I think we can all at least agree on that. But loving the contrary opinions, very cool. Thank you. We're going to go to the question we've had in from Edward next, and then we'll go back. I've got one more of the slides I'd like to run us through. Those of you watching, I hope you are enjoying this and you're getting good insights from it. If there's anything you'd like to ask the panel, big, small, etc., please get those questions in to us, because we'd love to answer your questions rather than mine, because you are the audience. All right, this is the one I wanted to discuss with you all. Whoops, hold on, get rid of that. So this is, I think, the elephant in the room of any AI discussion in the world of e-commerce at the moment, which is, and I must admit, I haven't read the announcement, so I'm going to attempt to summarize whilst you guys read and formulate answers, which is we heard about it earlier this year about being able to buy in the agentic discussion forums, log on to ChatGPT and be able to buy something, log on to Gemini, have a discussion, get recommended products and buy right there and then. In the last 48 hours, there have been bigger announcements about the depth of those integrations, with Shopify, ChatGPT and Stripe coming together, and Google, PayPal and APT coming together. Which this comes down to that lovely discussion of, is the website dead or not? I don't believe it is. I think the website is still going to be existing. I'll put that out there right now. But is this now going to become more of a marketplace? Is this going to become a big game changer? Are we going to see people failing to get to a website to buy? What do you guys think about this? Who fancies jumping in on it? Anyone brave enough?
guess I think I spoke to you a little bit about this, Chloe, at
Yeah,
the
you might have had half my rant on this last
maybe.
week.
I mean, I haven't seen the actual latest announcement. I was in a creative brainstorming group this morning, completely different side. But if we're talking like how could things move with AI and actual shops, or does it go straight through the chat the chat platforms, or how would that work? And I think it all eventually comes down to where is everything being hosted. I think that's at the end of the day, there's still data that has to sit somewhere, and I don't see that in this conversation yet. The sort of like, who are the big data players, like where, because ultimately if you've got access to the data, what sits in front of that can be anything. It could be your web shop, it could be chat, it could be Google, it could be, there's a lot of different windows that could sit in front of that. But ultimately for me, it's the space where that data is being hosted, and we could very well move to a place where you yourself just use a bunch of different tools to give people access to that data. So I don't know if I kind of see, would any of these parties be sort of like the one that's going to thrive. I even think that e-commerce platforms like BigCommerce, Shopify, Shopline, they could very well have a lot of competition from tools or concepts that come out of nowhere, because they look at where is the data being hosted.
It does feel a bit like the growth of Amazon in some ways, that Amazon turned retailers, for want of a better word, into product specialists. You're good at your product, and you're good at dispatching your product and ordering your product and keeping your product in stock and giving the information about your product. But then Amazon takes care of all the rest of it. And I think that's kind of where we're getting to a bit more with things like these, and also with WhatsApp is increasingly entering the same space of you can make your purchasing decision via the WhatsApp chat, and then you buy on WhatsApp, or you get directed straight deep into a checkout. So I think we're going to create another group of e-commerce people who are, I guess, data specialist, in how you were describing it, Judith. They've got the product data, but they're not that interested in selling via their website. They're interested in selling via WhatsApp, via ChatGPT, via Gemini, and so on and so forth. And yeah, you're obviously dealing with chatbots and site optimization with a lot of the same data. Are you finding your customers are concerned about this at the moment, or is it still, because we hear all this big news in the tech space, but the percentages we're seeing are still very, very tiny?
Yeah, I'd say not yet. The percentage is still quite small. And also, a lot of this news is very recent. So I can't comment yet on what the general sentiment is, because I think we're all just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. A lot of these AI changes have played out differently than we expected. I think 2 years ago, nobody knew what the effects of AI in the shopping space and even in our daily life would be. So in that sense, it's really hard to predict how this will affect the general consumer behavior, I'd say.
Love that. Janis, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I've got a couple of points that I'd like to throw into the mix. One is around exclusivity, and particularly because my background is in streaming. We all thought streaming would be like, oh, there's one platform and you can watch everything. But instead, everyone's got different subscriptions to Netflix and Apple TV and Amazon and all of those things. So we could end up with an ecosystem like that you just want to buy something generic like batteries, you just go to your default provider because you know that you can find, what you need. But if you want something specific, like you want a dress, you know that you're going to have to look at multiple providers to get what you want, and it might be easy to go direct. So I think that
Yeah,
exclusivity piece makes it very TBC as to whether this becomes an ecosystem where you can buy anything from anyone, or whether you can buy exclusively, Shopify and Etsy on ChatGPT and so on and so
yeah,
forth.
I
The
agree.
the other thing is, that one of the things that I find, I've had some really interesting conversations in the last few weeks around the number of people who work in e-commerce that still use their desktop for certain purchases. So if you think like things like flights, there are people who even in their 20s and 30s say, oh, if I'm buying a flight though, I like to do it on my desktop. So if we still have that level of disconnect in the mobile ecosystem, which has been going for decades now, I think we will still see some customers who prefer to do things the way they've always done them.
I love both those points, and I may have ranted about the second one multiple times in different forms recently. But I think also your talk about. I think there's also the commodity product versus the complex product, which kind of comes back to my comparison with Amazon. And you mentioned batteries. I'm pretty confident that if ChatGPT recommends me a AA battery, it's going to be a AA battery in a pack of 24 or whatever it is I want to buy it in. If I'm trying to find the perfect dress for Christmas lunch, why would I be? You all know I wear jeans all the time. Clearly, that's not for me. But anyway, we'll roll with it. The perfect jumper for Christmas lunch, let's say. Um, I'm less likely, I think, to go to as the consumer. I'm less likely to rely on ChatGPT. I may use that, then go through to the website to check all the details of the dress on the retailer's site. So I think we'll also get into um, like a three stage. I'm not using it at all. I'll use it, but then I'll go to the website and I'll use it and I'll check out. I think is where we may well end up. We have time for one or two more audience questions if any of you would like to send them through. I have one more that was a topic I wanted to get into. So it's my webinar, so we will. Which is this one. The comment is, it doesn't matter whether you automate or turn to AI. It's about building efficiency and profits into your business. It's a mindset shift. So this is kind of like that problem first, solution second thing, which you've probably all heard people talk about before. Because I find a lot of the time, I find that the whole AI boom in e-commerce has opened the door to the world of efficiency and automation in a way that somehow it had skipped the e-commerce industry before. In my world as a kind of info marketer, digital marketer, lots of Zapier chat, but mention Zapier to an e-commerce person, and they wouldn't know what you were talking about for years. It was very strange. So I'm finding a lot of brands talk about their AI benefits, but often it's actually automation rather than actual AI. So I'm suggesting that this is about a mindset shift, about actively pursuing more efficient ways to do things, which has been an arena which I think has been lacking in the e-commerce space for a long time. I think we've just been far more focused on growth, 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 and ignored the head office team and ignored might have got into a bit of warehouse efficiency, but we've ignored system efficiencies and we've ignored software efficiencies and we've ignored team efficiencies because we've just been focusing on getting more traffic to the website. Judith, you're nodding away, so I'll come to you first and give Yaël and Janis a little bit longer to think on this one. And sorry, I muted you, so I should unmute you as well, so we can actually hear your answer.
Yeah, I think that was the sirens going past here. I agree with you, Chloe, that I think that we're still in a little bit of a phase where when we talk about AI, we're talking about automation at the moment. And I do think that there is absolutely this opportunity now to probably stop and really have a look at how can you be more efficient and more effective. with the way that you work. So your full workflow. So I think AI is making us do that, is making us stop and go, okay, well, what does that process look like from A to Z? And really stopping and thinking about that, and then looking at where are those bottlenecks. And some of them will be really big and not easy to solve, and some of them will be really quick wins that you can solve fairly quickly. And I see this a lot in smaller companies that really want to take the next step. I'll go in, and often you'll see that and it sounds bad, right? It's the lack of resources and the lack of automation that's stopping them from actually scaling. So when you go in and you look at it and you sort of go, we could do more if we had more people, on the team. And that seems to be like a big thing. It's like, just add more people, and then we can grow. And automation for a long time has already been a solution to sort of go, well, if we can automate certain parts, we don't have to employ more people to do the same job in order to, get more growth. And I think AI is taking that to another level, where it's going, now you can start connecting all those things together, so that it's not just achieving some efficiencies here and here and here, but it's connecting the whole lot together, and that's creating a huge, big efficiency. But it's complicated. I think for that to me, like connecting all those separate bits is still very much in the realm of engineering and techies, and we're made to believe that you and I can do it.
Yeah, no code, not as simple as it seems. Yael, you're dealing with, your Doofinder's customers are, entering this space all the time and trying to make these amends. What's your take on this? Do you think it's a mindset shift? Do you think it matters whether it's AI or automation?
I'd say it really depends on what part of the process you're trying to improve. I agree with you that in a lot of the times there's space for automation in spaces where an online shop wasn't even thinking about it, where you can save a lot of time that can be better spent on other things. But I'd also still say that AI does matter in the sense that there's just a lot of different types of improvements that can't be made without AI. Like some of the tools that we offer, our search tool that understands search intent, like uses LLMs to understand real user search intent, that just can't be done without AI in the same great way. So I'd say in that sense, the difference between AI and automation does matter. But when you're implementing AI there, you can also consider that automation in some form. So I'd say when we're talking about AI, they're also very connected to automation. It's a conversation that I have a hard time separating, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And it's like, you're talking about the synonyms AI tool. Well, that automates the synonym creation within the system, but it's AI doing the automation. So yes, they are clearly, but I think you made a really clear point there about how actually it's about identifying what the problem is and finding the best way to fix it.
Yes, because I see that there can be a lot of there can be problems at all the different stages. I think we spoke already about a lot of different and interesting tools like virtual assist or chatbots that help different queries. Like there's a lot of companies that struggle with employing enough people to make sure the customer support is running well. But maybe later in the stage, like some companies struggle with upselling or cross-selling, or companies struggle with actually getting traffic to the website, but the traffic that's coming is conversing really well. So yeah, it really depends on at which stage of the customer journey your company is struggling with and how you could implement and automate.
Nicely put. Janis.
Yeah, I think there's also a big mindset shift around what people are doing. To Judith's point about, you've there are barriers to things that you haven't been able to do because you haven't got enough staff. I think it's also what those staff are doing. I was having a really interesting conversation with a friend earlier who runs an e-commerce site, and they were saying that they've got a great chatbot, and it's obviously using FAQs and data from its site, and it's very intelligent and all of those things, but there's huge amount of stuff that just isn't answered by their FAQs or their site. So actually it's a big mindset shift in terms of what their customer services team need to do. They need to spend less time actually answering queries and more time analyzing those queries and working out how to make sure that data then goes into that repository. It's also teaching LLMs and all of those things. So that stuff goes from being in their heads to actually how do we share that in a way that teaches our models, it teaches LLMs, it benefits the customer ultimately in a better way. But if we just stay doing what we're doing, then it's going to be like, oh well, the AI CS bot is rubbish. It's like, yes, because it doesn't have the material it needs to get better.
I did a fascinating podcast interview a couple of months ago with a huge B2B business in the US whose name has just left my brain. But they were talking about how they'd built a chatbot to help with their customer service activity. And what they'd realized was that they were so far away from being able to deploy it live to the customer base. But what they could make a massive gain with was by deploying it to their teams. So their customer service team were getting ready-made answers provided by the AI system that they could then tweak, edit as they needed to, which had a phenomenal impact on reducing the time to response, and enabled their team members to flit across more chats at the same time, because the heavy lifting was being done by the chat. But it was like a 6-month project to get the data in place, let alone train the AI. And they're a company who, because they're in the B2B space, they've got the great majority of the data already because they have to have it for legal reasons and all the rest of it. Right, we are fast approaching the end of the show. So if anybody wanted another question submitting, it's too late. It's too late, because I have a final question I really want to ask our guests here, which is, if that, and I'm gonna extend it a bit from what you guys were expecting, so it's now going to become a two-parter. So brace yourselves. So the main question is, if anyone watching took one thing away from this session, what should they take away from this session? And then I'm going to add into it. I want each of you to give a practical must-do AI automation step. So it could be something teeny tiny, like, I don't know, set up your branding correctly in Canva. I hope I'm not stealing one from you there, Judith. Or it could be something much bigger, like organize a project to sort out all your product information before you do anything else. So 2 parts. One, what's your key takeaway from this webinar for everyone watching? And secondly, what's the little thing or big thing you would suggest practically that they could do? I'm going to come to Judith, then Janis, then Yaël to have the final word. So Judith, let me unmute you because that would be useful. And your final thought and your one key recommendation, please.
I think we started out with the whole Black Friday stuff. I think the key takeaway is that there is still time to make a difference. There's 2 months left. You should really already know the products that you want to put out there, the ones that you want to promote, and that kind of stuff. But you still got time to play around a little bit, play around with what your ads look like, test a couple of different headers in subjects in emails, test out a few different versions for your Google, etc., and also probably do a last sort of like, what are the processes? Is there anything that I need to adapt a little bit or pay a little bit of attention to. So I think that's one of the big takeaways, is that it's not too late. And what was the second question again,
The
Chloe?
second part was one AI/automation action you would recommend people take.
Yes. Well, for me and my teams, I think where we stumbled out of the start blocks was sort of like diving headlong into problems. The sort of like, oh, we have to do this. So you pick up the first thing that kind of comes across your desk or pops into your head. And I don't think that's the right way to approach an AI transformation. I really do think that you need to step back and have a good long think about what does that process look like, whether it's on the front end for your customers, like what's the journey they're going through, where can we improve, or whether it's on the back end side, in your teams. How do we work? Like, how do we bring a campaign to fruition? These are all the steps. Okay, where and there do I need to build the basis, the data, etc., and what parts of AI can I use to optimize that? I think that planning bit is so important.
Love that advice. Yeah, it's so easy to think AI should happen now, and it very much doesn't. Janis, your two answers, please.
Yeah, I think the big strategic thing is actually like, what should you be focusing on right now? Because all the things that we've discussed, there are a million things you could be doing. And I think particularly in this run up to peak, I think the strategic thing of like, what are we focusing on is really important. And in terms of like a practical thing that people should be doing now, I think you need to be bringing your teams together to at least make sure your prompts are being done in a consistent way.
Mhm.
Let's break down those silos. Excellent advice. Yael, your final thoughts for us. What would be
Yeah.
your key takeaway from this session, and what's the super practical thing people should be doing?
Yeah. I'd say I agree with all the points made. For starters, don't think it's too late now. Don't think that implementing AI has to be a huge burden. There's plenty of tools that can help your company that are easy to implement. Look at your entire process, analyze to see where the biggest gains can be made quickly. And I'd also say more specifically with the seasons coming up as well, look at your own website and look at the search bar yourself. Go through your website as a user, as a visitor. Sometimes we think we have the products, we have the website is live, people are coming on our website, we're ready. But really also look if people can find those products in a way that is natural for people to look for them. And then when they get on that page, are people finding products that fit with them? Is this actually based on user behavior? Can you make automations there? So I'd say don't assume you're ever ready. Really, always keep doing research, always keep thinking from the user's perspective as well, where you can make these wins. And then from Doofinder's side, I think there's a lot of tools that can be easily implemented in terms of search, recommendations, and also I'd say analytics. Do you have your analytics in place? Do you know what products people are looking for, how they're looking for them? Because this data is very important for improving your processes as well. So think also about the data part too.
I love that you added that in, because I'm not quite sure how we managed to not mention that
Yeah.
going through that. I take that on my own failing there, that we didn't get into data and analytics.
I mean, it's such a whole topic by itself again, so then we'd have to extend for another hour. It makes sense.
Thank you all so much for your great insights in this. Really appreciate it. I'm going to let you go and hang out in the green room for a minute whilst I finish off. Audience, thank you so much for being here and being so engaged with our discussion. I hope it's been useful for you. I hope it's given you some more clarity on what you can do and make the whole thing feel a little less overwhelming too. Huge thank you to our sponsors, Doofinder, for being part of this one. You can find information about them somewhere near this webinar. I think it's just down there where you're watching in the video. Attendees, you will get an email tomorrow or later today with the replay. Why not share it with your team and use it as a way to start that conversation of how you're as a team going to approach the AI and the automation side of your business? Or just watch it again to make sure you've got everything. We don't mind, we're not picky. There will also be details of some other useful things in there as well. And next time, we're not doing this in November because you guys are way too busy to come and join webinars in November. But we will be back in December with our B2B e-commerce session. It's turned into a bit of an annual event and usually very, very popular. We'll be talking deep into the world of B2B e-commerce and what's going to help you win in 2026. There's a typo there I need to go and fix because on the 11th of December, you don't want to be talking about wins for 2025, do you? And then in January, we will be doing our annual kicking the year off in style with our what's it going to take to be successful in the coming year for everyone in e-commerce, not just the B2B people. So please do sign up and join us for those. They're available to register for right now. And thank you all for being here. Have a great peak.